Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Go Premanande Haribo. Very honored to be here in this beautiful temple. I feel like I'm in Vṛndāvana. The mood here is spiritually potent and thick. And my wife Āhlāda-Devi Dasa and I have been traveling various places, and we've been meaning to come back here for a long time. And now I lament even more that we took so long, because it's so nice here. Very beautiful temple you've made. And you're doing so much to help spread Krishna consciousness. It's very important work that you're doing. It's the most important. And I understand that you're going to conduct a Ratha-yātrā ceremony soon, on the 28th. How many have you done here? Ratha-yātrās. This will be the third. Well, what do you mean to? Oh, for how many years? Only 2024? 2004. Amazing. So in Jagannath Puri, as is described in the Nectar of Devotion, the residents are all liberated souls. For those who come in the vicinity of Jagannath Puri, anyone gets great benefit of being in Purushottam Kshetra. We hear in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Gopakumar is making his trek around the universe, he comes to Jagannath Puri. In fact, just by standing before the Lord and beholding his beautiful lotus eyes, he desires, oh, I wish I could come closer to the Lord. And Lord Jagannath makes arrangements that he ends up as the leader of Jagannath Puri, so he can go anytime. Krishna is so kind that he fulfills everyone's desires, and he's known as the most merciful because he comes out of the temple for various reasons. He has his internal reasons and his external reasons. Externally, we see how he benedicts everyone, coming down on his chariot in the most unlikely places, like he was on Saturday in New York City on Fifth Avenue. I was there in 1976 for the first one in New York City. Prabhupada was there, Jayananda was there, and there was so much momentum for Rath-Yatra already, and somehow we were able to get a permit to go down Fifth Avenue. And apparently they don't give those permits anymore, but because we're grandfathered in, Lord Jagannath still goes down Fifth Avenue. I've always appreciated watching the countenances of people who did not come for the parade and who are there on vacation or shopping on Fifth Avenue, and then behold the form of Lord Jagannath and the great chariots coming down the road, and the kirtans, that seeing through their eyes, them seeing the Lord for the first time, is the most priceless of events, because Krishna's intention in this world is to give himself to those who are lost in the material world and bring them back to the spiritual world. So Rath-Yatra, as conceived of by Srila Prabhupada, also an event that would take place all over the world. When he was a child, as we know, his father got him a Rath cart. He did Prabhupada, one of my godbrothers, that he used to, at night, after his father got him the cart, when he would take rest in the evening as a child, he would sleep next to the Rath-Yatra cart in his room, and he'd keep his hand on it to make sure it was still there, that it was real. He was so absorbed in the pastime of Lord Jagannath. And of course, Srila Prabhupada was very eager to give all of us the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, so much so that he imposed a marathon, the likes of which we've never seen since, to produce the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita within a couple of months, including the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. So as we observe the Rath-Yatra ceremonies, and we also become more acquainted with the reasons that Lord Chaitanya is dancing in Rath-Yatra and how he brings all his followers to participate, we can enter more deeply within the mood of Rath-Yatra. Srila Prabhupada, when he would lecture various Rath-Yatras around the world, would say, as he did in Philadelphia. I was once there when Prabhupada was at the Philadelphia Rath-Yatra, and he said in several places, this is a very feeling festival. And what does that mean? He was speaking to a general audience at that time. Of course, there were devotees there, but there were people who had come to see what Rath-Yatra was about, and Prabhupada described it as a feeling festival. So first of all, we're sentient beings. That means we're sensitive. We can feel. Dead stones can't feel, but we can because we're alive. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita is a description of what life is in the not just liberated state, but in the state of full consciousness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the relationship all of us have, as Brahma Samhita says, Sanitya Nitya Sambandha Prakritischa Paraivasa. Every living being has an eternal kinship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone has a unique eternal relationship with the Lord. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata bhutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. That he comes to the world to establish dharma and to uplift those who are eager to know him. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya tadrushkitam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavam yuge yuge. These are some of the apparent reasons that the Lord comes to the world, or is not apparent, but the reasons he states himself. And when we go into the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, still the gain is squeaking. The gain isn't squeaking, but we go into the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we get what is called revealed scripture. We can, through the pen of Kaviraj Goswami, who is inspired by the Lord himself and encouraged by all the devotees to write about the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, come to know the inner workings of Rath-Yatra. and of the Lord himself. The Chaitanya Charitamrita starts off with the Mangalacharna, a Mangalacharna, Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan, Ishan Isha Avatarakam, Tat Prakasham Tat Shakti, Krishna Chaitanya Samjakam. The author, Kaviraj Goswami, offers his obeisances to his gurus, Vande Gurun, Isha Bhaktan, all the devotees of the Lord, and all the expansions of the Lord. And then he specifically mentions Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gaurudai Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonudao. And he mentions how glorious is their appearance in this world. He gives this poetical description that if you can imagine on a horizon somewhere in the world, people go to see the sun rise or set, or the moon rise and set. But what if they came up at the same time, on the same horizon? That's poetically what he's describing there. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Godo Dai Pushpamanto. On the horizon of Goda Desh, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Ananda appear, or Lord Chaitanya appears, there's a way that he says they come up simultaneously. And why? Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Godo Dai Pushpamanto Chitro Shando Tamonudao, to wonderfully bestow benediction upon everybody. And Kaviraj Goswami goes on to describe how Lord Chaitanya is not an ordinary person. Yarad Vaitam Brahmo Panishari Tadapyasya Tanubha Yatman Tarayami Purusha Iti Sosam Shavibabaha Shadaishvaryai Puno Yayaha Bhagavan Saswayamayam Chaitanyat Krishna's Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha. Just as we find in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Advaya Gyan Tattva. It's one, there's only one truth. The truth is one, God is one, everything's one, but there's variety within the oneness. Padanti tat Tattvavidas tattvam yaj jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. The varieties of the Lord are in Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And similarly, Kaviraj Goswami is saying that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the same Krishna, and he appears as the Brahman effulgence, as the Paramatma within everyone's heart, and also as he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Only there's a mystery behind his appearance, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu announces in the next verse. Anarpita charim shirat karuna yavatirna kalau samarpayituna tojvara rasam sabhakti shriyam hari purata sundara dyuti katamba sandipita sada hridaya kandare spuratu vasa chinandana. That Krishna feels that I come on regular schedule, yada yada hi dharmasya, to establish the dharma of the age. I also come to uplift the devotees and cut down the demons so people can be a little peaceful and pursue spiritual life. It's about time right now. And he says something very profound, that anarpita chirim chira, for a very long time, or some say forever. Krishna's thinking, I have not given the topmost understanding to people about my personality. Because most people, when they think of God, they think of either an all-pervading spirit, jnana yajnena chapyanye yajanto mam upasate, ikatvena pritakvena bahuda vishvato mukam. In the Gita, Krishna says, people have all kinds of ideas about God. They worship many demigods, and they say, well, altogether, these demigods are God. Or some people, they say, well, well, I'm God, so I'll worship myself. And some people worship the universe as God. Like in California, if somebody gets a new car, they say, yeah, the universe gave me a new car. And then people worship God for various reasons. He says earlier in the Gita, Chaturavida bhajante mam jana sukituna arjuna arto jignasa artarti jnani cha bharatarshaba. 4 kinds of people approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some are suffering, so they want to end their suffering. Some want knowledge. Some are in need of wealth. And others are in knowledge of the absolute truth. Jnanis, those who are clear that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. And it said they're all great souls. But there's higher and higher conceptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what is the inner feeling of God? And this is what comes out in the pastime of Rath-Yatra as the feeling festival. What is that feeling that Krishna has? Did anybody ever consider that? Everyone in the material world is always thinking, what about my feelings? And why aren't I getting what I want? And how come things are going against me and not going for me all the time? Such expressions get a little monotonous. So Krishna has his own feelings. He has his own life. He's not just the all-pervading Brahman, although he is the all-pervading spirit. He's also not just Paramatma, who's the overseer and permitter and fulfilling everyone's desires since the time immemorial. Samoham sarvabhuteshu nami dvesho sninapriya. Krishna says, I'm just responding to what anybody wants here in the material world. But he has his own life. And he has his own preferences as well, because he's a person, albeit the supreme person. So narpita charim shirat karunya vitirana kalau. He thinks that I haven't revealed to the world the most personal aspect of my life. You could say that there in Vṛndāvana, God at home. And Prabhupada used to say the conception of Narayan, God at work. Just like you may know, I knew my father when I was a kid because I lived in the same house. I mean, how much did I know him? I'd see him go off to work with a suit and tie, come back, and then there'd be the weekends. He'd make us waffles or pancakes on Sunday, and he'd just be an ordinary dad, play catch with us and stuff like that. Same person, just in a different mood. He was pretty serious when he was going to work. So Krishna also has different moods, and Krishna prefers to be at home, as most people do. When they're at work, they're official. When they're at home, they're themselves. So Krishna, in his very relaxed way at home, doing what he likes, which is engaging in loving exchanges with his devotees. That's Vṛndāvana. So anarpita chirim shirat, for forever, for a long time, I've not taught this to the world. Karuna yavatir nakalau. So he comes back as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after he had appeared in Dwapara Yuga, and in Kali Yuga, he decides to reveal his topmost form and his most intimate aspect. Samarpayutamana tojodarasam sabhakti shriyam. And he reveals the mode of loving exchanges that's there in Sri Vṛndāvana Dham. Of course, we know from Brahma Samhita there are different realms. Goloka namni nijadamni chaleta tasya devi mahesha haridama suteshu teshu te te prabhava nichaya vihitaschayena. Yeah, lowest of all is Devi Dham. Above Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham. Above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham, the abode of Lord Hari, Vaikuntha. But above that is Sri Goloka Vṛndāvana. And there Krishna's at home. I just came from Italy, and I was reading an article about a movie star, American movie star, who moved there. I mean, I don't know if he actually moved. He probably has houses in a lot of places. But he tried to get assimilated there. He went to a small village. I think it's called Padilla. It's a ancient village there in Italy. And he went there. And he met with all the small town. He met with all the townspeople and let them know that I'm not coming here as a movie star. In fact, he helped them pass laws in the town there that if any paparazzi came, they couldn't come close to his house by boat or on land. And that he didn't want that. He expressed in a town hall meeting to the people that he just wanted to be part of the town. And that he just wanted to be one of them. And no one should make a big deal, and they don't. The locals. I just want to be one of you and be in this town. And nobody should take pictures or treat me any differently. And then I'll be happy. So Krishna has that desire also, according to Kaviraj Goswami. We hear in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how Krishna says, I become weary of the ways in which so much reverence, Prushukta mantras and the opulent ways of worshiping me. So I like it when I'm with my friends. They wrestle with me. And sometimes one of Krishna's friends in Goloka Vṛndāvana will wrestle him to the ground and say, you're not such a big man. Who says you're a big man? I can beat you any day of the week. And he says, when my girlfriends chastise me, he goes to see his beloved, and her friends say, she doesn't want to see you. Can't come in. Not seeing that. I like that. I like just being an ordinary person at home, and the deep loving affairs when nobody's treating me as God. And then, of course, we find out the ontological reasons behind it. Radha Krishna pranaya vikritya hladini shakti rasma ekatmana api bhuvi pura dehabedam katoto chaitanyakyam prakaramarana tadvayam chaikyamaptam Radha bhava duti suvalitam nami Krishna sarupam. That Krishna, desiring to understand the deep love that his devotees have. I can recognize His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj just walked in, so I'm going to stand up for one moment. So Kaviraj Goswami says, the Supreme Absolute Truth is one, Krishna, but he's divided himself into two eternally for his own enjoyment. But now he's come back together again as one in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shakti Rasma Eka Manav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gato Tau Chaitanyakyam Prakadamarana Tadvayam Dvayam Up. Radha Bhava Duti Subalitam Naumi Krishna Surupam. So now, although he's Krishna himself, he's the combined form of Radha and Krishna. And his complexion is not blackish, akrishnam, but it's a golden complexion. I'll say it one more time. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shakti Rasma Eka Manav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gatauta Chaitanyakyam Prakaramanana Tadvayam Chaikyamaptam Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Surupam. As the combined form, then he has the sentiments of Srimati Radharani for Krishna. So this is important in discussing Rath-Yatra. We're building the case for how, as Prabhupada said, this is a feeling festival. And in the next verse, Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho Vanayaiva Swadyo Yena Bhuta Madhurima Kidrisho Va Mariyaha Saukyam Chasya Mad Anubhavata Kidrisham Beti Lovat Tad Bhavadya Samajani Shachigarva Sindhu Harindu. There are these desires that Krishna has that he wants to experience the sweetness of his topmost devotees' love for him, the greatness of it, and the happiness that she, his eternal consort, expansion of his internal potency, experiences when she sees him. And that he cannot do himself because he's the object of her love, and he wants to experience what she's experiencing. So, at the Ratha-yātrā, we have parallel descriptions in two of our books. In chapter 82 of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the description of Krishna coming to Kurukshetra, ostensibly to perform some sacrifice. In fact, Kurukshetra is a place of sacrifice since the time immemorial when Parashuram had done his work, his handiwork, and had gone there for purification. And the Kuru dynasty had gone there, had been going there since a time immemorial to perform sacrifice. And during an eclipse of the sun, it's a time in which people, and anybody who's from India knows that when there's an opportunity for a harmonic convergence spiritually of any kind in any place, then everybody in India will go there. Like the Kumbh Mela, millions and millions of people came to be there at the precise time. We see in Vṛndāvana during the appearance of Radha Kund, it's hard to get into town because so many people come and try to take advantage of it. So Krishna went from Dwarka at that time. He had left Vṛndāvana, as we know, by the chariot of Akrura, who had come on the order of Kamsa to bring him to Mathura. Kamsa had an idea, as he always did, to eliminate Krishna. Krishna came to eliminate Kamsa and the other demons who were a burden on the world. And at that time, he had left Vṛndāvana and said he will be back. And he had been away for over 100 years. The words that he spoke to the residents of Vṛndāvana when he left, that I'll be back, kept them alive, although barely, because they were feeling such intense separation from Krishna. So Krishna had been in Mathura, and then of course, after defeating Jarasandha 17 times, and the 18th time, when both Jarasandha and Kalyavana came to assault Mathura, Krishna walked away as Ranchor. He's known as Ranchor, the one who walked away. And to protect the residents of Mathura, he had transferred all of them to the city that he manifested in the ocean as a fortress, Dwarka. In fact, they were sleeping at night and they woke up, all the residents of Mathura woke up in another place, in the middle of the ocean. Krishna's arrangement. And from Dwarka, now that Kurukshetra, it was announced, the astrologers had told when the eclipse would come, there was an opportunity to go there to perform some ritualistic ceremonies in order to take advantage of that day. And Krishna came with his minions, described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the grandeur of his entourage with golden chariots and elephants, horses, infantry, followers of all kinds, millions of them coming. And there had been also announcements in other places that this would be taking place, one of which was in Vṛndāvana. And some of the residents of Vṛndāvana had, including Nanda, Yashoda, had come along with gopis. There's some esoteric reasons why others didn't come that I won't go into now, but it has a lot to do with Krishna's, as Prabhupada describes in the Krishna book, he's present in Vṛndāvana in his bhava form. And there are different levels of separation that devotees feel. Some of them feel that Krishna never left. For instance, the cowherd boys. There was no real reason for them to come to Kurukshetra because they were already interacting with Krishna so deeply in his bhava form there in Vṛndāvana. But certainly the gopis came, and those in parental love with Krishna, Nanda, Yashoda, and there was a convergence and a noticeable difference between the attendees there at Kurukshetra, as is described in the Bhagavatam, that those from Vṛndāvana came in covered wagons, simple, from the village. They brought milk products. Those that came from Dwarka, noticeably, were in regal dress. And most noticeably, Krishna was also dressed in kingly dress, princely dress, and very much different from his dress in Vṛndāvana, which is that he decorates himself with implements from the forest, peacock feathers, leaves. He sometimes, and so do his friends, paint themselves with clay and other kinds of colored matter that they find in the earth. And this shows the contrast between the two worlds of Dwarka and Vṛndāvana, which is the thickening of the plot of Ratha-yātrā, which is taking place there at Kurukshetra, and which is reenacted again and again in Jagannath Puri. The Jagannath Puri Ratha-yātrā is a reenactment of this description of the meeting of Krishna and his most beloved devotees at Kurukshetra. And Jagannath Puri represents Dwarka, whereas the Gundicha temple, which is maintained there in Jagannath Puri, and we know the pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all his associates cleansing the Gundicha temple. That's key in the pastime of Ratha-yātrā because Krishna travels from Dwarka to Vṛndāvana, or is pulled. And I hope I should have given a spoiler alert. Going back to Kurukshetra, Krishna arrives there, and soon afterwards come the residents of Vṛndāvana, his beloved devotees, his mother and his father. And what other engagements he's in, ways he's entertaining the many sages who have arrived there, as well as his followers, millions of followers. When he hears about the residents of Vṛndāvana appearing in Kurukshetra, he goes there to meet with them. Nanda and Yashoda, when they see Krishna and Balaram there, although they're grown-ups at that time, or as grown-up as they get, take both Krishna and Balaram on their laps and see them only as their little children, and in great maternal love are caressing them and hugging them and holding them. And some of the other devotees who are there, who try to engage in conversation with Yashoda, realize that she's in a kind of trance that she won't come out of. So they give up trying to communicate with her. But when Krishna hears about the gopis, his most intimate of devotees, arriving there, he goes to meet them. And this comes to the pinnacle of the Ratha-yātrā pastime, is this reunion of Krishna with the gopis, absorbed in this, what is called ujjvala rasa, the topmost loving relationship, which we heard about in an earlier verse I mentioned. And there's some key verses that are mentioned in their discussion. Krishna's there, same Krishna apparently. The gopis are there, Srimati Radharani's there. And at the same time, Srimati Radharani, Krishna's topmost devotee, expresses still another desire, that although you're here and I'm here, still it's not the same thing. And this brings us to a verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enigmatically sang when he was at the Rath-Yatra. It has an origin in a secular section of literature, which is describing or giving examples of literature which is considered undesirable. The particular verse, which begins with Ya Komara Harasa Eva Hicharas, is about two lovers who met. Later they're still together but married. And the woman in the relationship is thinking back to the time when they met. And they were in this budding romance. And she remembers what it was like there, the moonlight, and under the vatasi tree, by the river at night. And there they were, in love. And she's pining for that time, saying, yes, we're the same people, but it's not the same because the context is different. I want to go back to that time when we were there together, and it was the environment that brought out the best of our love in that place. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sang that at Rath-Yatra. Anybody who knew the song would think, why is a sannyasi singing that? It would be like a Taylor Swift song or something. Somebody's singing and like, what's that lovey-dovey song the sannyasi singing there at a Rath-Yatra? People go to Rath-Yatra for various reasons, for multitude of reasons. When you go to Rath-Yatra, it's a sea of people, over 1 million, and you can see within the multitude, the various groups. They're identifiable if you look from up top, from up high, and you can see every imaginable philosophical system being enacted. As Madhavananda Prabhu explains to us about Jagannath Puri, he said, everybody comes and worships Lord Jagannath. The Buddhists come, the Mayavadis come, various groups from all over the world come to see Lord Jagannath. He pulls people in. It's a time when there's a convergence of all these people, but at its core, it's this dilemma that takes place there in the Srimad Bhagavatam when Krishna and Radharani meet after over 100 years. And then Krishna's presenting himself and he's speaking, saying that if he were to say, then here we are, we're together. Why don't you come with me to Dwarka? And she will say, it's not the same. I want you in Vṛndāvana. Because Vṛndāvana, the backdrop of Vṛndāvana is the backdrop which engenders this intimate feeling of connection with Krishna, where he's himself with no pretense of being a king or something else. He's just Krishna, the form that everyone wants to love. At the Rath-Yatra, when the devotees heard this song from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many were confused. The only one who wasn't was Swarup Damodar. He could understand. And of course, we know later that although he understood it, later Rūpa Goswami broadcast it. And he wrote a parallel verse which translates that verse that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke at Rath-Yatra, in which the lover, the woman, is pining for the earlier time when they first met. So Radharani is pining for Krishna to come back to Vṛndāvana. That's where that loving exchange takes place. It can't be done anywhere else. Krishna with the peacock feather, and there with Govardhan Hill and the Jamuna. The context is everything. That's where the love flows in the deepest way. And so he wrote a verse, as you know, from the Antya Lila. Rūpa Goswami had it intuited by Lord Chaitanya's mercy what he had meant by singing that secular song. So he wrote the other verse, which translated it. You have it right there? Okay, thank you. You're so astute. Priya so yam Krishna sachari kuru kshetra militas. Tataham sa radha ta idam ubayot sangama sukham. Tatapyanta kelam madura murali panchamajushe manome kalindi pulina vipinaya sprihayati. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I'm the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant but I would still like to go to the bank of the Jamuna. Beneath the trees of the forest there, I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within the forest of Vṛndāvana. Thank you. And this is why Srila Rūpa Goswami, we hear in the verse that Manobhishtam, you're going to understand the heart, the mind of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. So when, at that pinnacle of the exchange, Srimati Radharani says, not here, not with all these soldiers. We can't have the same relationship here. Krishna, of course, says, yes, I will come back. And he does eventually after killing Dantavakra. But all the residents of Vṛndāvana and Srimati Radharani at that time, pining for Krishna, essentially they pull him from within their hearts back to Vṛndāvana. And the pulling of the chariots is a reenactment of that. Krishna going from the opulence of his palace, the temple in Jagannath Puri, to simple Vṛndāvana, the Gudicha temple, pulling the ropes like that. My brother, Peter, he's 12 years older than me. I think he's come to every Rath-Yatra that I've ever been at, but he mostly came to see me. I started noticing recently, he'll come up and go, yeah, I pulled all the carts. And then I wondered, I mean, how much could I tell him? Tell you what that's about. I mean, we do explain it, but does anybody know what's happening going down the street in New York City on Fifth Avenue, or through the park in Golden Gate Park, or any city around the world? And here, what street do you go to? Which one? Going down the boardwalk in Atlantic City with Lord Jagannath. This is the amazing aspect of Krishna revealing himself to the world, which Prabhupada so brilliantly brought out. Really fulfilling the desire that Krishna expresses in Anarpita Charim Chirat, that I want everybody to know this. And of course, not everybody does right away. It takes some time. When we were just in Jagannath Puri with our yatra, we do book distribution during the yatra. Everybody gets a book bag. And if you want an easy place to distribute books, I can tell you where it is, Jagannath Puri. If you'd like to go to a heaven somewhere where everyone takes a book from you and gives a donation, I can take you there. It's in Jagannath Puri. So one day, I was walking down the street, and I think near Kula, we were together walking down the street. You can verify my story. We saw this well-dressed gentleman down a couple of steps as we were walking down the road in Jagannath Puri. And of course, we were looking for people to approach. And we saw him down there. We noticed him because he was smoking a cigarette. And so we walked down the steps. And as soon as he saw us, he put it behind his back. And our first gesture to the people we meet is to give them a lollipop. Because who doesn't like candy on a stick? Everybody likes it. Handed him the lollipop, and then we give everyone a sticker of Lord Jagannath. Then we hand him a book. And now this was getting a little bit difficult because he only had one hand, because the cigarette was behind his back. And we noticed that he artfully, humans are so, living beings in general are so adroit in ways, especially when they're trying to preserve their sense gratification. He found these two pipes that were running along the building, and somehow he was able to, without us apparently seeing him, and so he thought, to wedge the burning cigarette in there so it would be there for him after he received Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So now he had two hands and a cigarette burning behind him, quite obviously. And then we showed him a card. He was a Bengali gentleman, so we were in a Bengali part of town. And we showed him the card, which summarily requests a contribution. And which he was happy to do, and so was everybody else. So he took out a donation and gave it, appreciated the books, and then we started making our way down the alleyway. And I peeked back to see that his cigarette had rolled off somehow and was in an awkward place for him to retrieve. Yet he was still trying. And finally, he was able to fish it out from wherever it was and keep puffing away. Does that mean it's the end? Okay. Yeah, because you want to hear the end of the story, right? And as we noticed that, we saw before our eyes, the conundrum of the material world. We tend to get attached, not any of you, I'm talking a population outside this room, except I will include myself. We tend to get attached to things here in the material world, which we know aren't good for us. Shri Radha ki jai, Shri Gauri Tai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai. How much time do I have? How much more time do I have? Never tell me that. It doesn't matter because my wife will tell you that doesn't work. So, okay, bringing back to the story, just a replay. Got the books, retrieved the cigarette back. He has books in one hand and prasadam and a Jagannath sticker and a cigarette in the other hand. This is the conundrum of the material world. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vishaya vinivartante, nirahara sedehina, rasad barjam rasopyasya, param jushva nivartate. To give up this bad habits of this world and fully embrace Krishna, we have to get a higher taste. And to do that, we really have to see Krishna. There's no other kind of arrangement we can make in this world that will bring us to the level where we'll forever be able to leave behind the illusory material world, which is a reflection of the spiritual world. Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the demigods praying to Lord Kṛṣṇa within the womb say, Yene Vrindakshava Muktamaninas Tvayastabhavad Avashuddha Buddhaya Aruya Krishnena Parambadam Tata Patantyato Nadirta Yushmanangraya. And that is until one comes to see the lotus eyes of the Lord and have a relationship with him, then any kind of arrangement that one makes to fortify oneself against the waves of material existence will not be successful. One will be knocked off that platform, whatever it is, and go back to smoking cigarettes or whatever it may be. And so when Jagannath comes out of his temple in a very practical way and reveals himself to the world, there's a pang within the heart of the citizenry where they see that there is the Lord coming down the street, although they may not know that. In the Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada describes how those who attend the Ratha-yātrā are imperceptibly liberated. He doesn't use that word imperceptibly. Lord Kapila-dev does when he describes how when a neophyte comes to the temple and smells the incense, sees the form of the Lord, such a person is imperceptibly liberated. And so are all the people who see a Lord Jagannath. But then Prabhupada said it is a feeling festival. So when those who cultivate Krishna consciousness come to know the aesthetic of the spiritual worlds and the story behind it, the loving affair that Krishna has with the residents of Vṛndāvana, and most particularly Srimati Radharani, and the story of separation, which is something people are hankering for in this world. That's why they watch soap operas. Do they still watch soap operas? When I was a kid, it was General Hospital. And then As the World Turns. No, nobody knows anything about this at all? Are you sure? Yeah. General Hospital is still going on. We have a report from the front row. Thank you. Those are situational romances that take place in hospitals here, there, and everywhere. And everyone wants to hear about it. In fact, every poem, song, or drama that was ever written has the plot thicken when boy meets girl, girl meets boy. So our philosophy is not to renounce the material world, but yuvatinam yata yuni yunam cha yuvatau yata mano binamate tadvan maname ramatam tvai. As Rūpa Goswami says, just as young boys are naturally attracted to young girls and young girls are naturally attracted to young boys, if you unload a busload of teenagers in front of the Grand Canyon, they won't see the Grand Canyon because they're in samādhi. He said, in the same way, may my mind be drawn to you. So when Prabhupada said this is a feeling festival, the Rath-Yatra, there is a story behind it, a love story, but it's the love story. It's not any love story. It's the love story. It's the ādi-rasa that gets perverted in this world as what's called āhlāda-tāpa-traya. The love affairs of this world end in misery and strife and difficulty and complications. Of course, there are complications in the love story of the spiritual world, but they're all ānanda. And this Ratha-yatra is so remarkable because what we have here is an apparently ordinary parade, but we're pulling the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and not just an image of God, and we say God is great and we're all small and we're all servants, but there's this very specific story of Lord Kṛṣṇa meeting again the residents of Vṛndāvana, and the depth of their separation from him, which is never broken, because true love is never broken. Even Shakespeare says that. And that's all encapsulated within the Rath-Yatra festival. So brilliant was Prabhupada to bring it out to the world so that both aspects are there. The Kevala ānanda kanda, the bliss of the chanting, the prasadam, the display of booths, and here's Krishna consciousness. You'll get inner peace. But beyond that, there's the most esoteric of all stories that highly advanced Paramahamsas relish again and again and tell over and over again, and which they go into the details of again and again and relish it unlimitedly. So we're part of that legacy to bring Rath-Yatra to the world. And along with the Rath-Yatra, we may also distribute Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita for anyone who has such an intervention in his or her life by seeing the Rath-Yatra and then receiving translated literature, what to speak of prasadam, and the association of devotees can then take to the path of devotional service. I'll just take a couple of questions if we still have a moment. 1, 2, 3. And the extra microphone. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful explanation of Rath-Yatra pastime. So my question is, when Mahaprabhu came, he has two moods, like Harinam Sankirtan, and then also like the internal mood of Radharani. And one is very external facing, one is very internal facing. And we see at the Rath-Yatra the same thing happening at the same time. Like Rath-Yatra is a huge festival, took a huge outreach. And like, at least when we perform it, there's so much focus on preaching and mission and all this stuff. At the same time, Rath-Yatra is the same place where this like Mahabhav, like most deep internal pastime occurred. So like when we're doing Rath-Yatra, I feel like the mood is very much focused on, it's like organization, service. It's almost like sometimes motive, passion type of like very like, go get it. We got to get this thing to work. But how do we reconcile that with also understanding that the Rath-Yatra is a place where Mahaprabhu like expressed this sort of deepest emotion of Radharani's feelings towards Krishna? How do we, as devotees participating in Rath-Yatra, reconcile these sort of two modes?
They're reconciled in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's enactment of Rath-Yatra also, as well as his appearance in the world. For instance, at Rath-Yatra, he was meticulous in organizing the chanting parties. He assigned the chanters, he assigned the Madanga players, he assigned the dancers, he was assigned the responders, and he put he added Vaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur there, and the choreography was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's idea to attract the public and let them hear the holy name. So the organizational aspect is definitely there. It's part of the Sankirtan movement. We find that, for instance, Rūpa and Sanatan, they have their eternal forms in the spiritual world. But as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, we're to follow the forms of and modes of worship of Rūpa and Sanatan in this world. And what did they do? Sankhya Purvaka Namagana Nati Kalavasani Krito. They counted everything. That seems a little fruitive, doesn't it? Like, isn't that corporate, counting all your rounds and all these things? This is the process that they taught. So when we organize Rath-Yatra and we stay up all night or put everyone to work, cooking and all that, that's also what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. And for those who do such service, they may also receive this very esoteric understanding of Rath-Yatra by dint of their service. You see in the pastime of Rath-Yatra, Raj Prataparudra, who was eager to meet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who at first denied him, came and swept the road in front of Lord Jagannath's cart, and specifically mentioned by Kaviraj Goswami that he and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had special vision of what Lord Chaitanya was doing during the dancing, which was that he was expanding himself and joining every party. And not everyone could see it, but Prataparudra did. And that was because he rendered that humble service. So if someone goes in and cuts zucchini for 10 hours to get ready for the Rath-Yatra, that's also one of the ways in which one can come to know the inner workings of the festival, just by being a humble servant, trying to help present the festival. But that's also what the Chaitanya Charitamrita Kaviraj Goswami describes, how there's the internal and the external reasons why he came. And both are going on simultaneously, and Krishna can enact many different purposes at the same time. That was Prabhupada's genius also, in working on both levels at the same time. Next question. I forgot who was number 2. Yes. Mangala Chitra.
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances. It is such a gift of mercy to see you in our home temple. Thank you for coming.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I think I have more a reflection and gratitude necessarily than a question. This year, Rath-Yatra, every year it teaches me something. It's like a pilgrimage in itself. And this year, I noticed how at the beginning you can be pushed and shoved. Everybody wants a piece of the rope. You can have people, I hope I see you there. I hope I see this one there. Where are we going to meet? Where are we going to meet? And people can start jockeying for position. And then you think, I'm going to take a shortcut and go around. And the police on the scooters, they get you back in line. And you usually end up further back than where you started. VDA said, Gurudev's going to be in front of the cart at 11 o'clock. Don't want to miss that one. How do I jockey to get myself there? And this year I thought, this is like life. We're all jockeying, trying to get somewhere different. We're all going in the same direction. And instead of fighting it, I'm just going to walk. And this person came running at me, and then they went. And then someone else popped up next to me. And it was hugs and embraces and tears. And at one point, I looked over and there you are. I didn't have to do anything. You just showed up one person away from me. And I followed Harinam and chanted with you because I stayed tethered to the rope and the path. And I followed your feet the rest of the way to the park. It's amazing how much faster I got to the destination because I was tethered to your feet. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Well, I'd like to give a couple of quick rejoinders. One is that the pushing and jockeying for position goes back to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srivas Pandit was observing the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and completely absorbed in it. And Harichandana, who was the servant of Pratapuruja Maharaj, who helped protect him from the crowds. He was the king out there. He noticed that Pratapuruja Maharaj could not see past Srivas Pandit, so he started tapping him on the shoulder. And Srivas Pandit became annoyed. He's trying to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and somebody's touching and pushing him, so he turned around and slapped Harichandana. And Harichandana was about to say something, and Pratapuruja Maharaj said, I am not so fortunate. I have not been slapped by a pure devotee. You are so fortunate, Harichandana, and he diffused the situation. And regarding following the footsteps, I've had experience of doing Govardhan Parikram. And I always, some days going out on the Parikram and feel tired. And I'd always find somebody in front of me, some sadhu who does it once, twice a day, really used to it. I just get behind the sadhu and say, wherever you go, I go. Whatever speed you go, I go. And this is one of the techniques of spiritual life. In fact, it's the main one. Pada potena mahatkritena kurvanti govatsa padam bhavabdim, as mentioned again by the demigods praying to Lord Kṛṣṇa within the womb, says, Pada potena mahatkritena, find somebody who's going faster than you in the right direction. And then get behind them. And then that prayer goes on to say, when you do that, then the destination is much closer. In fact, so we have to cross the ocean of material existence because you're behind somebody who's more experienced, the Mahat, actually Krishna or the great souls. Then the ocean shrinks down so you can step over it. It becomes the size of the hoofprint of the calf. Just reminded me of that verse. Thank you. Okay, 3, 4. Prabhu? Could we get the microphone to him in 7 seconds or less, or his money back from today's class?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. All Krishna Prabhupada.
Mine to you.
We hear that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Mahavadanyaya, the most merciful manifestation of Lord Kṛṣṇa. But then we also hear that Jagannath is also very merciful. Now, we hear the pastimes, we hear the stories, but when we practically experience this, and I've had a situation several years ago at a Rath-Yatra. I wasn't initiated, just kind of new to ISKCON. And the car stopped, and the deities, the temple deities that are worshipped on the altar, were being taken to the cart. And the pujari handed me Jagannath. And I went back, I said, I'm not initiated. He says, no, for Jagannath it doesn't matter, initiated or not initiated. You can take him to the altar. I said, wow. Took him to the altar. Now, on a special day like Gaur Purnima, you have to be a Brahmana. You have to be initiated for the most merciful manifestation of Krishna. How is that? Shouldn't Jagannath be the most merciful manifestation? Because on Rath-Yatra, even a Shudra could actually embrace him. How do we reconcile this, Maharaj?
Krishna, Karabhajana Muni mentions Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yayam sada paribhavagnam abhishtadoham tirtaspanam shiva vrinchi nutam sharanyam rityartiham pranatapala pavapipotam vande mahapurushate charanarvindam. First of all, he says, Lord Chaitanya is most fit to be meditated upon because he can remove the embarrassment of material life from us. He's meditated upon and worshipped by Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma. And that just by bowing down to Lord Chaitanya, Tirtaspadam Shiva, one achieves the results of going to all the holy places of pilgrimage. And then Tyakvasa dusya jasa repsita raja lakshmin dharmista arya vishasa yadagaranyam mayam ragam dayate ipsitam anpadabat vande mahapurushate charanarvindam. Here Karabhajana Muni describing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, mayam ragam, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chases after the living entities. He's so merciful. Of course, Lord Jagannath is mercy personified as well. He comes out and he gives everyone an opportunity to see him, doesn't matter who they are. Even in Jagannath Puri during the Rath-Yatra festival in Puri, although no non-Hindu, whatever that means, can go into the Jagannath temple. Once he's out on the road, even the pujaris, they invite obvious non-Hindus to come up and embrace Lord Jagannath and so forth. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his main occupation, his preoccupation is Mayam Mrigam Dayate Ipsitam Vadavat, is chasing after the conditioned souls wherever he goes, to bring them back to him. And there's a story in the Chaitanya Bhagavat where Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya are traveling and they get invited to the home of a so-called sannyasi. He's actually a householder, but he calls himself a sannyasi. And while they're there interacting with him, he comes out and he offers Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the bliss drink, calls it the bliss drink. And Mahaprabhu says to Lord Nityananda, what is the bliss drink? And he says, I think he means wine. And Mahaprabhu runs from that place with Lord Nityananda, hand in hand, and they jump in the Ganga and float all the way down to the house of Advaita Acharya. And the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vṛndāvana Das Thakur, says, who could be more merciful than Lord Chaitanya? He knows, he's omniscient. He goes to the house of a sahaja wine drinker and gives him his mercy in that very house. So Prabodhananda Saraswati is very into Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the Chaitanya Chandamrita, he make statements like, any other avatar or incarnation who's ever appeared, just forget about it. There's nobody as great as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that preoccupation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to everyone's house. In fact, my godbrother Dayananda, not Dayananda, in London, Dhananjaya, thank you. Dhananjaya, who I always call when I'm leaving London and talk to him before I catch a flight. He's on record saying that he went to Prabhupada as a householder asking what he should do to support his household. And Prabhupada said, you could make Gaurnitai Murtis. And he said, you can sell them. In fact, he said, you can sell them just like you do books on the street. And you can stop people and say, here, these are Hare Krishna dolls. And if you take them to your house and you pray to them, they'll fulfill all your desires. And then, he said, people will ask, well, how are they going to fulfill all my desires? And then you can explain the philosophy to them. And then Dhananjaya was a little reticent about it. He goes, yeah, but Prabhupada, all these houses and people, they're not really qualified, right? And Prabhupada said, even if they go to the house of a meat eater, he won't take offense. Lord Chaitanya is so kind. So we can pile up the evidence, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as the Supreme Patita-pāvana.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, one last one, and then we're all going to go out door to door in this neighborhood together. Ready? Say yes. Haribol. Go ahead, right here. Last one.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Gurudev. I had one question earlier, but it already answered, I think. You already answered. Like, I was about to ask how to intensify the process of bhakti.
How to what? Identify?
Intensify.
Intensify.
Yeah. So I think one is to follow who are in the higher stage, follow them. That's what I understood from your previous conversation. And yeah, but for my condition, I need a physical association. And I'm reading books and everything, but I need a physical association. And like today's preaching, I very much liked. So how to follow you?
Okay, but your question is how to intensify the prasa bhakti and how to follow me. Well, one way I find to intensify the prasa bhakti is go door to door to distribute transcendental literature. It doesn't get any more intense than that, really. Because when you go door to door to distribute Krishna consciousness, there's a natural intensity because you don't know who's going to open the door. Just the idea of walking out the door and getting out of your comfort zone and going meeting people is rather intense. It's a good intensity though. And if you go and you knock on somebody's door, then you have Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, because who's going to open the door? And that's what the main way you can intensify your own practice of devotional service is go give it to other people. But especially door to door is good because you don't get to see who's behind the door until they open it. We were in Denver recently and we went door to door with a group of devotees and it was really fun. You can't have any more fun than that, really. It's impossible. And one of the devotees he's a doctor and he's very good looking, he's wealthy, he's a doctor. And we stopped at one door and Shishi Radhe Sham Ki Jai. Shishi Gaurnitai Ki Jai. I watched him knock on a door. The person opened the door They took one look at him. Remember, he's a handsome, rich doctor. And they slammed the door on him. And I said, I bet you've never had that happen to you in your whole life. And he was telling us later, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. I feel great. And so if you want to have a little excitement in your life and not be bored, find a Sankirtan party that's going out and just feel what it feels like to go outside the temple or your house and meet people who don't know anything about Krishna consciousness and just try to make friends with them. I recommend, I was just in, where was I? Bulgaria. I went to Bulgaria, and I don't know anything about Bulgaria, but I do know that people are the same everywhere. And we went on book distribution in Bulgaria, and I had the same feeling before we went out on the streets to distribute books that I do everywhere, and that is, I wonder what's going to happen. And then, plus I had 7 people following me to see how to distribute books, and I was praying to Krishna. It's like, don't fail me now. Came all the way to Bulgaria, and that was intense. And it made me really pray to Krishna. So it's a really intense way to increase your practice of devotional service, is to organize in such a way that you can all go out together. Everybody go out to places where you can be together and distribute Krishna consciousness and make friends with people. That will make your japa the next day, when you give mercy to other people who weren't expecting it, or even, well, I won't say didn't want it. That's a whole nother subject matter. But when you give mercy to people who weren't expecting it, the next day when you chant your japa, you'll notice that Lord Ānanda gives you special mercy to chant, and you'll be able to hear the name and you'll be able to cry out. So I just have to say again that this is such a beautiful community. I can feel the mood of Krishna Bhakti here. It looks like Vṛndāvana. It feels like Vṛndāvana to me. And we're glad that we fought the traffic and drove 2 hours to get here. We'd go 4 or 6 hours even if we had to come back here. And I hope maybe next time we can have a few days together where we can organize some book distribution parties to go out, because you just can't have any more fun than that, right? Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Shri Gaura Nitai, dear Shri Shri Radhesham, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, if you so desire, please empower ISKCON Central New Jersey to become the topmost book distributors, not just in New Jersey, not even on the Eastern Seaboard, but in America. It's possible with the leadership that you have here. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. I think we have to go, right? Okay, otherwise we'd have a short kirtan. And nonetheless, it's a Monday night and it's really late, so we'll come back another time.